size like numbers, you see that if somebody was reading it to me today, and he's like, "Oh, you don't believe Jesus is coming back?" And I'm like, not really. I'm not in a physical way. And then when he started reading it, he got frustrated with me because it kept saying that it was a spiritual thing. It's a spiritual thing. So I'm not sure. I'm with you on this one though. I don't think a physical thing, because 159 159 is also like makes it like on Judgment Day.
I think Megatron, they don't understand what the spirit is. They're confused. So when God says, "And we blew into him of our spirit," I don't think they get that. The spirit is a powerful thing. The spirit is above the angels, because it says, "The day we send the spirit and the angels." So clearly it looks like the spirit, when it compares to the angels, is like the boss man. He's the boss of them. Bigger than them, stronger than them. And if God says, "Look, the spirit is in Asa, he will do these things because the spirit is with him," you will conform to him because the spirit, even Adam, when God says to the angels, "Submit to Adam," why? He only says that after the spirit is blown into him. So they're actually submitting to the boss. So the boss of the angels is the spirit. And I can get it. It's like, oh shit, they're actually submitting to a more powerful being that resides within Adam. It gives him his power, his authority. Again, when he ate from the tree because he's an idiot, I think he lost the ability to have the spirit. But before the tree incident, clearly Adam had the spirit. Clearly Jesus had the spirit. That's why God says, the example of Jesus with God is like the example of Adam. It's very clear. They're the same. And if mankind has the spirit, then you have authority over beings, you have authority over the angels, you have authority over things, which we don't have because we don't have I don't think I have the spirit. I don't think you have the spirit. I think we have a soul and a body, and that's pretty much it.
But the graven sin is to deny the spirit.
But we don't deny this spirit. We're just saying you cannot absorb it because your DNA is polluted. Because of that goddamn tree, that whatever the tree did, I think it just impacted the DNA of Adam, and he could not absorb the spirit. He's like, okay, spirit had to leave, and he was on his own. That's why he became naked, and he became he became desolate, and he did what he did. The spirit could no longer reside in Adam because of the tree. The tree is actually your biggest problem. And again, the fact that God purified al-Masih. Al-Masih means the one who's been purified, the one who's been cleansed. So he cleansed him, and he said, okay, because now you're clean, you don't have the DNA problem, you can take the Holy Spirit. And that's why he did what he did.
How retarded are you? You think we got a genetic problem, you idiot? We got a psychological intelligence problem. What the fuck are you talking about?
Watch your mouth. There's women on stage. Watch your mouth.
Dude, I'm a Muslim, but thank you for asking the question.
Does the Quran say that Adam and Eve lost so clothes after they ate the tree?
Yeah. So it says when they ate from the tree, something happened, and they had to cover themselves. So something changed within them, and then even though Adam repented according to the Quran, God accepted his repentance. What does he say? Get out. You have to exit. You cannot stay in this garden. You cannot. So why would he say to him, exit the garden, if he forgave him? Because he can no longer physically be in that place.
Just like a question though, because were they clothed prior to eating the fruit or after?
Well, Thomas, the verse, the words that are used is so atihuma, right? Which you can also look at it as their vulnerabilities. So all of a sudden, their vulnerabilities were exposed. And just like us humans, what do we do when we feel shame? What do we do when we feel guilt? We go into hiding. Now it's interesting because the imagery that the verse gives, I think it says that they covered themselves with leaves, like leaves from the plant. So this is what we do too. When we feel shame, we go into hiding. So it's interesting because the covered with leaves would indicate that they were in fact naked, but the word so'at could also mean vulnerabilities. So before this interaction with, I think it's a shaitan, so with Satan, they were living a life of bliss. they had no concerns. They didn't feel shame. They didn't feel guilt. And as soon as they made that mistake, because what did Satan do? Satan basically gave them bait. He said, God doesn't want you to approach the tree lest you become angels, or what was the other one? Like rulers? Immortal, but also not just immortal, but like having dominion. Or maybe that's what the angels are. Anyway, either one. And if we look at today, what do people destroy blood? Like, what do people destroy lives over? What do people kill for? Dominion and rulership and longevity, right? There are, yeah. So Satan did that with Adam. Adam gave in because he too wanted dominion and rulership and all these things.
No, you're wrong, Khadijah. That's not Satan. That's Jesus Christ in the garden. The snake is Jesus. You got it wrong, Khadijah.
Before we get into that Christian stuff, I wanted to talk what Brother Free was saying. So that's why.
Hang on, no, I was getting clarification for something.
But that's it. So I personally I heard of course we all grew up with the fact that they were naked, but the Arabic word is so atihuma, which can mean vulnerabilities, right, or negatives. So it could be that they now they finally felt what we all feel on Earth. We have all of these negative, dark emotions on Earth.
We do.
We strive to reach bliss. We strive to reach peace within our hearts, right? So I think this is actually what I think it's more psychological than it is about whether they dressed or undressed. Because what they were experiencing before was bliss. They covered to hide themselves.
So what does it say when it says in 7:27? I'm just looking at the Quran.com. Do not let Satan deceive you as he tempted your parents out of paradise to cause their cover to be removed in order to expose their wickedness.
I'm pulling it up now. I'm gonna look at the Arabic word. You said 7:27.
Got to get it in the Arabic.
20, and I'm using the Oh, children of Adam. Let me read it in Arabic.
America is an English-speaking country and always will be speaking English. Always.
Just kick him out of here.
I don't know who brought him here. Guys, that's a kind of, he's a foe. Okay, يريهما سوآتهما. Hold on. Okay, so it does say that he removes from them their garments. Oh, let's go back. Sorry. Oh, children of Adam, do not let the devil afflict you as he evicted your parents from the paradise. He, as in the devil, removes from them their garments to show them their vulnerabilities. So it is translated vulnerabilities, which is the so'at.
Yeah.
He and his tribe perceive you from where you do not perceive them. We have made the devils as allies for those who do not believe.
So what is the garment here then? Is it literal? Is it not literal?
I don't know. What do you think?
Garment-
Literal or
well,
not
I have a little
literal?
bit of a
Yeah.
sense.
What fucking year is it? Are we even alive right now? Are we talking about fucking concepts? Is it literal? Hello?
So one of them, it might be libas. Libas is kind of like an outer garment that you wear when you socialize. So in the verses that use the word libas, you can think of it as the Western idea of a mask, right? So I'm speaking to you in this way. This is my mask that you see me in. When I'm with my kids, I have a different mask, right? When I'm with my parents, I have a different mask, and vice versa. So in the Western view, we all have masks, and they even pose the question, do you even know who you are without a mask, right? But in the Quran, the libas show up as a mask too. And that's why it says, libas al-taqwa, what is it? Like the best clothes, libas, is the clothes of righteousness, right? So that whenever you put your mask on, make it righteous, make it good, make it ethical, make it, all these different things. So the libas could be a type of mask if we think of it.
Earth is a clown sounds like a fat liberal lesbian.
And so when he removes from them their garments to show them their vulnerabilities, maybe he's removing their mask of bliss to show them their actual vulnerabilities that they got. So the Quran has another philosophy that whatever good is from God and whatever badness comes from yourself. And that everything that comes to you.
Holy shit, these Muslim women have become preachers. Impressive.
Versus you and another person, right? It's plural. So perhaps what's happening is the mask is once again like a mask of. Does that make sense, or are they going in circles? Like it is, it's still very much a mask, but the mask comes off and they see who they have truly become because they have gone against God.
Because the mask is just a mask. It's not the person
Is that per se real? Yes. Worldwide watchers. Yes, sir. I am a worldwide watcher, worldwide watchers. Wow, that's really incredible. Also, watchexpress.com. So, I wanted to know that I tested picking up watches that really, watches really much bigger and one has service ways, even state-of-the-art stuff. And I had a watch from my grandfather from the 30s and 1931.
Even the state person we audience here yesterday, and Danish said, it's not his business, I don't think to radicalize kids now. And James said, when Trump said, what again? I'm like, Obama, JCP was signed the sanctions. They were still chanting, into America. And the president before that, and the other people. So, like you said, Lula, in the UK, you guys don't have the state policy. In America, we have the same, there is deep, dark history. Yes, America's full of deep, dark history. It's done a lot of crazy shit.
As is the UK.
Yeah, and the UK as well.
Mm-hmm.
But they got their shit together, and they don't say, debt to Iran or debt to other countries. They don't, it's not at the state level.
Yes, but at the same time, in the UK, they are putting in jail Holocaust survival, 92 years old, because they say free Palestine. So please.
No, we're not talking about 92-year-old Andy. We're talking about the state level.
Telling you what
state
is
level.
the
Do you see it? It's
now,
not even a. It's not even a. Oh my God.
Do you understand the comparison? We're comparing them with the kids getting radicalized at school, and it's done with the will of the state.
You cannot say
The
that.
state has a law, and the state has a policy on this.
It's not radicalizing.
The state has a policy on the books, Andy.
Telling them who is the enemy, who are starving the population, not just in Iran. They're starving in
But if you're only
Palestine,
giving
wherever
one viewpoint.
wherever they went. It's the population. It's the system, okay, imperialistic system that thrown napalm, okay, in Vietnam on the civil population. The 2 atomic bombs in Japan on civil population. May I go further, or it's enough?
Andy, so radicalization, for example, is about teaching hatred towards a particular group of people or worldview.
It's not
right?
a group of people, it's an institution.
Let me finish. A child is, the idea of being against an institution is quite abstract, right? When people think about death, they think about people. They don't think about countries, generally speaking, without putting a child in the mix. If you say that to a child, they will associate that with the people until they're old enough to process the difference. I'm not saying, look, I understand why Iran have an issue with America, and I don't believe that it was the reason, that it was a fair reason to attack Iran at all. I've been in this room pretty much every day, so I'm certainly not saying that. But if it is being taught to children, then you are giving them a hate, you are teaching them hatred, but not giving them the resources to understand what that truly means, because it's an abstract idea. Death to a country is abstract. It's not concrete like death to people. And children, I haven't finished, right? And children don't have the capacity for that abstract thinking. I teach English, right? There are certain things that you wouldn't even touch on in terms of inference and analysis until children are old enough to get it.
Man, can they get them on the ballot, or will it have to be a
I can understand your point of view, but I do not agree, because it depends the context, the language. No, it depends the context and the language where you grow. It's different. I have been, for example, I was working and living for a year in the slums in the slums outside of Mombasa, in Kenya, during a civil war. It's different, the perception, depending on at which level or degree of the Maslow pyramid you are, okay? But you learn progressively. And this debt to America is not just debt to America, because they are telling America as a system, and they are not just telling this and it's over. They are explaining why. They're explaining why they are the enemy, what they're doing, what they did in the history, and why they are against.
And you think a 7-year-old would be able to understand that and process that?
We'll learn it up to the age of 15. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not my question, right? A 15-year-old would understand that, generally speaking, unless they have a cognitive issue that stops them being able to process. A 7-year-old would not. They wouldn't. I have been teaching for over 20 years. I know kids, I know their capacity. I'm not saying the message is wrong necessarily in terms of them being the enemy and everything else. We're talking about specifically children. And for once in this room, I actually have the receipts and the experience to comment, because one thing I do know is kids and learning and how people process and understand it.
You're absolutely right, Lula. I'll give you that. But here's the thing that's not being said in this room. These kids are not just told death to America, just like that. Okay, they're actually being shown. You know what radicalizes them? They bring them receipts, as you said. They shown them pictures of their brethren being slaughtered in the most egregious way. Okay, that's what's fucking radical.
Mama, that's not true. That's not true. That's not true.
You don't.
That's not true. I spoke to Danish earlier. No, you're giving. They do not tell these kids. Why are you saying that to America? What are you talking about?
Danish is.
Oh my God. Oh, I don't know. Look, Muhammad, I hate when somebody spreads propaganda out of my room, man.
Oh, so what I'm saying is propaganda, right?
What you're saying, you said that the kids are taught. I literally went over this with Danish earlier. They're not taught. The kids are not taught what it actually means. And kids at the age of between 5 to 10, they're not gonna stand up and ask a question. What does that mean?
So these kids are not being shown videos and pictures of their brethren being killed, right?
Oh my God.
That's America.
God, I hope they're not under 10.
Yeah.
I can't
Well,
believe
they do.
this.
You know what?
Well, you got.
That's what. Because that actually has a bigger impact. That's what's going to radicalize them. Okay, because death to America is not impotent enough to radicalize.
Mohammed, you're not understanding the age bracket of when it's being introduced. The age bracket, bro. They're not being shown at that age.
That's what I'm saying. I'm just telling you. If you really want to have a bigger, higher impact, show them pictures and videos, and that's exactly what they're doing.
But is there any evidence saying?
Wait, what? Sorry.
To the gym. Go to the gym again.
Yeah, twice.
Huh? I try to go 3 times now.
Oh. I want a Supergirl. I know it's long, but
No, it is a.
It's all right. It's sold to the next speaker. That speaker is divine. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, some of you are probably all aware of it. I put it in the chat. The young man, 6'1", $180, on his way to college football player, went out boating in Mississippi with his friends. His name is Nolan. Everybody came back except Nolan since the 4th. They've been looking and looking and looking. I've been following this report.
So when I looked into the imam, that kind of really startled me a little bit because, well, it didn't, anyway, but how the Quran talks about imam, it can be a person, just like Abraham was an imam to the people, and it can even be the book, because Moses, his imam was the book, al-Kitab. So it's interesting that we're all going to be called based on our imams. So like if my imam is the Quran, I'm going to be called upon with the rest. Oh, and guess what? So everybody's going to be called based on their imams. And from those people are those who are going to receive their books from the right. So just because you have an imam doesn't mean you're going to be in a good place. That's the scary part, I think.
Yeah, that's actually a very good analysis because yes, it does say the imam is a person or a thing. So the book can be an imam, you're right. And your imam is called up, and then they compare you to your imam. You're like, okay, you know what? It doesn't look like you really followed the imam.
Yes, because your book of records should reflect your imam.
Yes.
Yeah.
So does this have anything to do with any kind of purification process before you get to heaven? Do you guys have that?
Like some kind of atonement process, you mean?
No, purification process before they get to heaven.
Like in this world or the next?
No. Like when if like.
Oh no, you're either going to heaven or not.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think the Jews believe. Well, and Megatron, you're familiar with Torah and stuff like that. Is it true that Jews believe that they will all go to hell for a short while and then they'll go into heaven? Like they're going to get purified in hell?
So they believe, I think during the time of Jesus, I'm not so sure now, but they believed in some sort of annihilationism. Like, in other words, Sheol was that place that like just dead bodies were thrown, or like
is that purgatory, Megatron?
Sheol wouldn't be considered that. So
no, that's not. What is purgatory? Because I'm confused. What is purgatory?
So purgatory is where no one in purgatory. We say no one goes directly to heaven or hell. You have to be purified before you get to heaven.
Well, the saints can skip purgatory.
Yeah, I don't know about that. They say they can, but I don't know. Everybody goes through this purification process before you go to heaven.
Well, either on earth or after, right?
Yeah. Oh, well, whatever. I don't know. It just says purgatory. So, like, like you watch the movie Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
So that's like a play out of what purgatory would look like. Right? You're waiting on a line. You're waiting on a line. Your number, the guy next to you is number 2, and you're number 4,000, 4,400,000, whatever. So you don't know how long you're gonna stay there. Yeah, you don't know.
All you know is there's this pain there, but the source of that pain, some people speculate is it going to be to the senses? Will it just be like a longing in your heart to receive God? There's lots of like different ideas of what it could be, but the whole point is a process of purification, because we believe that your sins kind of like it's like wrapping yourself like a towel. You know how you twist a towel. And then
you're not going to get away with nothing. You're not going to get away with anything. You're gonna have to purify all the things that you've done there.
Yeah. So when you receive a confession, it's like removing the chains from that towel. So that towel is no longer chained up, but you still have to untwist it. And that purgatory is untwisting it so that it can be the shape it's supposed to be.
Interesting. So the Quran. Okay. So if we're talking about heaven and hell and who gets to go where. On the day of accountability, so I'm going to talk about myself, okay? When I am held accountable with God, he's going to look at my sins and he's going to look at my good points, right? But if I have more good points, if I've done more good in this world, then he will reject my sins, which is interesting. Kafar is used, the word kafar. The word that they use against us, all of us in the room, I'm sure. So the word kafar is used to reject these sins. So basically, the sins are not going to go away, but he's not going to pay attention to them because I ended up being such a good person. So does that help you does that kind of answer a little bit of why perhaps there's no purification process pre-entering heaven?
Sounds like this. It sounds very similar, just different way to shake it, like a different way of understand. That's how I see it. You're just saying it differently.
So how does in terms of Adam and Eve though, and the mask being removed, how does that mask get put back on?
Oh, well, I think one would have to reaffirm their relationship with God.
I would think it's impossible. You cannot. I mean, Jesus did it, but that's an anomaly. You can't do it.
Yeah.
Is impossible. That mask a source of kind of sorrow, pain, sin?
Yeah, Thomas, this could be the human experience. They finally have the human experience of being in paradise.
Oh my God! It's a revelation.
Wouldn't you need that back on? Otherwise, you are now.
Well, God says that when you're in heaven, you will have no more sadness and no more hatred in your heart. I guess so. With that being, but that becomes our true state. Like I heard some people talking about heaven and what they're looking forward to, and a lot of the things that they were looking forward to were quite predatorial. Like they sounded like predators. Yeah, like it was really gross that this was what they were looking forward to. And I started to wonder, like, would God even accept those requests? Like, for example, let's say a pedophile is like, oh, I'd love to be like an 8-year-old girl in heaven, right? Would God actually accept those requests? Because if you're entering paradise to begin with, you have to have a clean heart and a record, right? That doesn't say you were ever a pedophile.
Maybe he makes me look at your
God has some jokes, so we could do
Now you understand the purification. Now you understand the purification process.
Well, I don't know I wonder if he would even be allowed in. If he's
we're following breaking news of a deadly shooting in
perverted people kind of have
some
negative points racked up, I think.
Khadija, a lot of these people sometimes themselves have gone through things at a young age. You get
Oh,
what I'm saying?
yeah.
I'm not justifying it.
No,
I'm
no, of
justifying
course.
it.
I get it. Yeah, if you're
You know?
molested as a child, you end up
Yeah,
being a
people
molester
like
too.
no, not really, but you know what I'm saying. Like
You can.
Their
This is a
life,
super
their life is
super-
not the same. Like they're jaded. They're
But Megatron,
They're lost.
this is what our life is about: overcoming our challenges, being honest with ourselves. Even the marriage advice in the Quran is only successful if you are honest with yourself and where you went wrong in your own marriage. Like, it's quite fascinating. There has to be a reconciliation, but has anybody tried to reconcile with a person that thinks they're right all the time? It's impossible. It's literally impossible. So in order to even reconcile in a marital relationship, both parties have to be open and honest with what they have done and didn't do. You know what I mean? And I feel like the Quran is continuously asking us this, because what we, like, for example, what you believe kind of in a way dictates your actions, right? If I am a racist, then it'll show up in what I do, right? If I'm a good person, it's going to show.
For those who would say, you're not reporting when a naturally born U.S. citizen commits a heinous crime and saying naturally born citizen committed a crime.
But the other side of that argument is, yeah, but if these folks weren't in the country illegally, these heinous crimes wouldn't have occurred because they wouldn't have been in the country.
So I think there's something to be said for both
Points of view here. Over the weekend, I believe it was, a Pennsylvania police officer was fatally shot by a Haitian immigrant. And
I researched this because, frankly, this has been presented in two different ways depending on which news organization is presenting the story. Was he in the country illegally, or was he in the country legally? And if he was in the country legally, why is he being called an illegal immigrant? So here are the facts. He came in on a parole program under the Biden administration, not temporary protective status, a parole program. Why they call a parole program, I do not know, but it allows for, similar to the temporary protective status, I think for a shorter period of time, a person who was under duress in their home country, on the occasion that the government feels that it wants to invite those individuals in, they're allowed into the country. So he entered the country legally. While he was in the country, his parole status expired and he applied for TPS, temporary protection status, and it was denied, and he was issued an order to deport, which he was under at the time that he allegedly killed the police officer. So for those who would argue that there is good reason to be concerned even now after the border has been buttoned up about people in the country illegally, it is true that while this individual entered the country under an illegal status, he was here illegally, unlawfully, at the time that this homicide occurred in which a Pennsylvania police officer was killed, for which he is being charged. So there's that argument. When we talk about, as well, the immigration fight continuing, the first aspect, the deaths, and we'll get into detentions and deportations in a moment. There was another incident over the weekend, and here's where I'm asking for a little wiggle room. It does not have to do with immigration, but it does have to do with National Guard troops on the street. So this was in Memphis. These National Guard members on patrol were pursuing somebody based on a report of shots fired. They were assigned to a crime-fighting patrol. They were not assigned to an immigration enforcement. They shot the man, they say, who turned toward the soldiers with a gun during the pursuit in downtown Memphis. 2 National Guard members opened fire. The individual was killed. They were part of a task force in Memphis created by the president, who last year sent troops and federal agents to Democrat-run cities that he described as overrun with crime. And in this case, they were deployed by the Tennessee governor, who is a Republican, but has the authority to deploy the Guard. And this shooting occurred. Whether it was justified or not will be determined by the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. But it does raise the question about the training of the National Guard's members, which we've discussed here before. Are they really properly trained in the manner in which police officers are properly trained? But we do also know that even in the case of the police officers, we have questionable shootings all the time in this country. So a couple other things to discuss that are popping up today. There's a new ICE facility that's being developed that could speed up deportation for families and kids. It's a 528-bed holding facility for migrant families and unaccompanied children. It's to be established next to an airport hub in Alexandria, Louisiana, which would remove logistical headaches caused by wrangling children from foster homes and shelters across the country and not having anywhere to put them during the final preparations for flights. Now, we saw that last year when a bunch of Guatemalan children were woken up in the middle of the night and given almost no time to get to Harlingen, Texas, where they waited on an airport tarmac for hours. And while they were there, legal action was taken. A federal judge prevented their deportation. But the chaotic situation really underscored the challenges authorities have faced, because they don't have anywhere to put families and children near the airport. So ICE is calling this area that's being developed near the Alexandria facility a staging area, not a detention center. And then they say the people could only be held there a few days at the most. Now we have the case that you may have heard of the ICE officers who were sent to a man's house over an email. So what happened here was, and this happened in upstate New York, ICE sent federal officers to his house with a warning because he had sent an email to the agency's then head. This guy is a U.S. citizen. And he was on a trip to Finland when these 2 officers showed up at his home in Rochester, New York in June, presented his wife with warning notice, informing him that the email he sent months earlier was considered a threat. The mail was sent to then ICE head Todd Lyons. He was the acting director of ICE. This was in response to an ICE officer or an immigration officer fatally shooting Renee Good in Minneapolis during an anti-ICE demonstration. And in the email, Strever called Lyons, quote, a monstrous human being who, quote, will never know peace. He's claiming he was exercising his First Amendment rights. The warning claims that he may have committed a threat against a federal agent, which is against the law, and he's being investigated thereof. So today, Strever has sued ICE for sending the officers to his house with that warning. And he's claiming that he had the right to do so. ICE had no right to come to his home. and threaten him and his family in his view, and so he is sued. Now this happened only, I don't know if it was before or after. I think days after, 2 ICE agents went also in upstate New York to a polling place to give a similar warning letter to a poll worker who was exercising her First Amendment rights, and they viewed what she had said as a threat as well. So Striever is being represented, by the way, by the Philadelphia-based Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, claiming that his right to free expression was violated. And then finally, I want to touch on the ex-Afghan ally who died in ICE custody. Because to many Americans, it's reprehensible that somebody who put his life on the line in Afghanistan for our troops was even detained in the first place after being brought into the United States. And we now know today the cause of death. So I'm going to read the Associated Press story. An Afghan national who fought alongside U.S. forces died from an allergic reaction while in custody of ICE 1 day after he was detained for deportation proceedings, his death certificate shows. 41-year-old Mohammed Nazir Paktiwal suffered an adverse drug reaction to an unidentified substance which triggered anaphylaxis and exacerbated his asthma, according to the document. His March 14th death at a Dallas hospital was ruled to be an accident. His sudden death in ICE custody has drawn outrage because he had risked his life fighting as an ally of U.S. Special Forces in Afghanistan for a decade. Over more than 50 ICE detention deaths during President Trump's second term. His is the first to be ruled an accident, according to tracking by the Associated Press. Most of the others have been blamed on natural causes or suicide. An advocacy group, Afghan Evac, and 2 members of Congress are today calling on Texas authorities to release his autopsy report, which they have sought to withhold by arguing its disclosure would interfere with a pending criminal investigation. Now, I cannot imagine what that pending criminal investigation might be, because the guy is dead. If he's the target of that investigation or not, I don't know. So, just to recap, we have a Haitian parolee who is charged with killing a Pennsylvania police officer. We have the National Guard, are they properly trained, shooting someone who they were chasing, who they claim turned and pointed a gun at them. I don't think you really need a lot of training to make that decision. We have a new ICE facility being established near an airport to expedite the deportation of families and children who are in ICE custody. We have the U.S. citizen who sent an email to the then head of ICE in which his house was now visited by ICE agents with a warning note claiming that he was under investigation for threatening the life of that then acting director of ICE, who is now suing for those actions. And we have a guy who put his life on the line for our troops in Afghanistan, who died while in detention, ICE detention. So I think Brian is correct. This is a story that continues and has been largely overlooked and deserves our attention. So with that overview, I will now open it up to you to discuss the continuing concerns about illegal immigration and concerns about enforcement. Alan, are you with us on this one, or are you busy?
No, I'm not busy, but I don't have much to say other than immigration situation has changed big time by giving him a different name, by giving him
no attention or extreme attention. It got to the point of now they detention them, then deporting them and this and that. If they could have just to hold the way it was, keep the door closed, an individual like myself had to go through a screening, make sure I prove to my country government I won't be a burden on the American shoulder when I come into this country to study, and also the proper paperwork, go through the right channel, and the acceptance from the college or the university. First step was things was okay, but through the years I was a witness to get the rules and regulation pushed under the blanket, and then it got to the point of now it's against the law to leave the door open. They're all having it bar around them houses. They have bolt locked to every door. But the country, the most important home for all of us, door has to be open and individual come in with no check-in. So the result is this. You think everybody comes in here, they want to come in here, have a good life? No, I don't believe that. Back to you.
Well, you raised a very, very important question. And that is that as administrations change, this is our system of government, our approach to immigration changes as well. And so there is an absolute inconsistency in how we as a nation approach immigration. And Marshall has discussed this many times, that we would not have these contradictions in our government policies if Congress would pass legislation that would codify what is allowed and what is not allowed. Because I don't think really it's fair to the immigrant nor to the Native Americans when the rules of the road change on the whim of whoever happens to be president at the time. So I think you're right about that. I think that was your first comment that you made, Alan. And I think that's a very important comment. I will note that I did a slight amount of research into our approach to immigration in the United States as compared to several other nations. So, for example, in India and Pakistan, if you are found to be in the country illegally, you can be imprisoned for varying amounts of time depending on which country. Then there's the extreme of North Korea, where you can be put to death if you're in the country illegally. I don't think anybody is suggesting that here, but I'm just pointing out that different countries have different approaches. And in the United States, we provide social services for people who are here illegally. Now, I'm not arguing that that's a good thing or that's a bad thing, but there's a big contrast. And I also think with the rules of the road changing, that there is an unfairness, and maybe, when you come into the country, you have to recognize that there could be a change and be prepared for it when you change the rules. I think TPS is a prime example of it. We invite folks in and then we say they're undesirable and we kick them out. I think that's confusing to everybody. Why did we allow them in the first place if they're undesirable? Or are they really undesirable and deserving of being kicked out? And it's really an inconsistent policy. But to the core reason why I was motivated to choose this as a topic, Brian is right. We don't see the big demonstrations in Los Angeles right now because the government has changed its tactics there. We don't see the big demonstrations in Minneapolis, St. Paul right now because the government has changed its tactics there. But that doesn't mean that there isn't still a quota, and that doesn't mean that ICE agents aren't still very active in rounding up people who are illegal immigrants. And that doesn't mean that there aren't people who are not illegal immigrants who are being subjected to ICE detention or at least interrogation because they fit a profile. That is still happening. And because of all the other things that are going on right now in the world, and because the tactics have changed so markedly, it's not being widely covered in the news. But that doesn't mean it's not being covered in the news, because I just read to you from 4 or 5 different articles things that are occurring vis-a-vis immigration. So because there are no confrontations between ICE officers and demonstrators on the streets of Minneapolis or St. Paul or in downtown LA, should it no longer be something that we are attentive to? I think that the way we operate in this country, where we jump from crisis to crisis, doesn't give us a chance to properly assess any of these issues. And it actually encourages not just civil disobedience, but civil disorder, because if you want to draw attention to your cause, it's pretty obvious that you have to go and, and break some rules in order to do so. Like the old saying, if you want to make an omelet, you got to break some shells, right? I think that's really what's happening here. Thank you for that, Alan. See, you didn't think you had much to contribute, but actually you did. Marshall, followed by Scott.
So it sounds to me like one of those cases needs to be thoroughly investigated. The one where the cop got killed. The other 3 sound to me like excessive, like something like overly excessive. Somebody should not have died in custody, particularly somebody who served our country, unless they committed a felony and were on their way out. And they shouldn't have been abused even then. Right? But if they committed a felony, they would have had to be in custody. The other 2 just sound a little weird. Now, there's a part of me that can kind of understand where you won't have peace can be taken as a threat, but the overwhelming part of me that likes freedom of speech goes, okay, so now we're criminalizing vague things that don't have any real meaning to them, right? Oh, you won't know peace? I take you won't know peace to mean I'm going to threaten you. Well, then what am I allowed to say to a public official if I'm upset with them? Right? So this just seems like the exact wrong way to handle things. I'm for enforcing the law. I'm for enforcing rules. I am not for excessive force. I am not for people dying in custody due to adverse drug reactions because they didn't bother to have a translator to check whether the guy could take the meds they were giving him or not. I'm not for abuse of any kind. And this is what happens when you run fast and break things. You hurt people along the way, and that just does not seem to me to be an acceptable way to do things.
So I think in general, Marshall, and see how this fits with you. I think in general that this administration does things not necessarily because they think it will be upheld in the courts when challenged, but in order to put a chilling effect on free speech in this country. And they may be very well aware.
That's exactly why they do that.
Right. They may be.
That comes across to me exactly like that.
They may be very well aware, Marshall, that these individuals did not break any law by saying you will see no rest. Is that a threat? Or is that saying that his conscience will be bothering him for the rest of his life? I guess you can interpret it either way.
I mean, I take it it's the conscience that's going to be bothering you for the rest of your life. You'll never know peace. But again, what am I then allowed to say to a public official if I'm upset with them? If I think the way ICE has handled things has been criminal and negligent and cruel, what am I allowed to say? Am I not allowed to say that what you've done is cruel? Am I not allowed to say that what you have done is inhumane and that like you'll never know peace because you've done such an inhumane thing? And like what am I not allowed? Where does the space between threatening a public official and simply being angry with the fact that they're enforcing law in this way, where does one end and the other begin?
And, you know, there's another aspect to this, and that is sending 2 federal agents, in one case to this gentleman's house in Rochester, the other case to a woman who's volunteering her time as a poll worker on election day.
The one who volunteered her time as a poll worker, that seems, they're both egregious, but the poll worker thing seems incredibly egregious to me. Like what, like you couldn't go to her house and like leave a letter. You had to go to the polling place. Like federal agents had to show up at a polling place. Really? Are we serious?
That was absolutely by design to help spread the fear. They wanted coverage of all this, in my opinion. So this is not dissimilar to the James Comey incident where he took a picture of some shells on the beach, and now he's being charged with threatening the president of the United States. First of all, they don't have any evidence that he put the shells out there himself. And secondly, even if he did, so what? A lot of people have used those numbers to talk about deep sixing this president, and that doesn't mean necessarily killing the president. And so I don't think that they really believe they're going to get a conviction on James Comey. They just want to keep messing with him and continue to put a chilling effect on you and me, what we could say to criticize our government. And there may be those who say, you're just saying this because you have a dislike for Donald Trump. I'm not saying this in the context of a like or dislike for Donald Trump at all. I am saying this in the context of we do not want to set a precedent in this country where we cannot demand redress from our government.
To me, this is worth taking to the streets over. Be kind, don't flip over cars, don't burn things, don't destroy people's property, because that's not legal. That's not protected by the First Amendment. But if I could do it, I'd create a sign and stick those guys' words on the sign and march around with that sign. Because how dare you tell me I can't say your conscience is going to bother you? How dare you tell me that I don't have the right to criticize my officials in this country?
Right, and here's the thing, if you put it in the perspective, as I think some people might, that you only care because it's Donald Trump, well, what happens when the next president is a liberal and conservatives want to criticize that person and that president says, well, I'm going to send federal agents out to shut these people down.
I care because it gives the president yet greater power and more ability to say things and get away with them and chill free speech. That's why I care. Not because it's Donald Trump, because of what will happen when the next person is in office and they can do the same thing he did.
Exactly my point. Thank you, Marshall. If there are folks who disagree with Marshall and Gary, raise your hand. Scott, followed by Daryl.
Hello, everybody. Nice to see you, everybody here. It's wonderful.
How was the 4th of July in the birthplace of our nation? Scott, we want a first-hand report.
It was amazing. It's always amazing. Every day in Philadelphia is amazing. It's why would this day be any different? What night is this? What makes it different than all others? No, it was good. It was good. It was hot. It was really, really hot, as it was in most of the Northeast. A lot of fireworks, but it was nice. It was a nice day. I didn't do much active, but it was I followed the events of the day. It was nice. So I don't have a whole lot to say other than I think I echo some stuff Marshall has said about the problems with over the past few weeks about not passing laws and these things happening through the executive branch kind of willy-nilly and in pendulum swings. I also think something Marshall said about, doing things too quick and rushed and hurried. I mean, I think that this is an example of this, right? This administration is handling this ham-handedly. In some ways, I mean, that's tragically, people are losing their lives and lives are being ruined. But I mean, I think on some level, there was a mandate to get the border under control, right? I think that's clearly, the top two exit poll issues were prices and the border economy, which I read as prices, and the border. And this is overreaching and excessive. Bill Maher asked J.D. Vance, why can't we ever just go to the middle? Why extreme to extreme? And yeah, so I mean, I think that this is an example of that kind of extremist management. Now, I want to say something in response to Gary. You were talking a little bit about just this sort of overcorrections and excesses and that sort of thing, and why can't we get to a more stable polity and have more stable prescriptions? I was reading Robert Reich this morning, and it's funny because he and Steve Bannon are saying the same thing about the Democratic Socialists, and this is relevant for in a second. I'll explain why. He says, in 2025, over 250 DSA members held elected public office across 40 states, with 90% of them elected after 2019. Pundits eager to declare a new movement or sound the alarm about socialism are having a field day, but they're wrong. I don't mean to minimize the role of the DSA or the significance of democratic socialism, but the fact is voters who have supported these candidates haven't done so because they've been particularly attracted to the idea of democratic socialism. Most don't even know what democratic socialism is. In reality, voters have been attracted to vigorous young people who are committed to getting stuff done. Voters have had it with incumbents who have been in their jobs for decades at a time of record inequalities of income, wealth, and opportunity. When billionaires are behind much of what our government is doing, voters want fighters who will get big corporate money out of our politics and go to the mat for average working people. And he goes on to describe how just this sort of impulse, what in the activism energy of these candidates draws people to them. The same thing could be said for Trump and his ready, fire, aim approach to immigration and a host of other things. But I think people are frustrated and they want action, and that frustration and action and feeling disenfranchised where the establishment is concerned leads to this kind of stuff that you were talking about, Gary, the pendulum swinging, right? People just will reach for any solution, right? And I think that this is sadly, I think we are going to experience much more of this before we experience less of it. I think the mood of the country will have to change, and we'll have to get out of this disruptive mood, or we'll get more extreme policies like the Trump immigration policy. We'll get people, these populists on the left and the right, that are called upon to just do something, right? And then we get frustrated when the something isn't quite what we signed up for or bargained for. Thanks, Dan.
What about the aspect that I raised, Scott, and I appreciate those comments about how we jump from crisis to crisis, and we don't as a society take the opportunity to really analyze any one of these issues in its totality, and therefore we have such a knee-jerk reaction. I mean, isn't that the way social media works? And people are getting what they believe to be their news right now from social media. Isn't that really where we are suffering from a lack of an attention span? I don't know whether this is by design or not, but it certainly has the effect of people not really understanding the nuances of an issue, and then opining upon it and maybe even acting upon something that they don't even know what they're talking about.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Gary. I mean, nobody's going to say the American culture's problem is that it suffers from too much depth, right? Or else we wouldn't have elected Donald Trump. Excuse me. But I think, the problem is with populist disruption is you don't really get to choose the disruptor you get, right? And so, Marshall can see, what this populist disruption did to his party. And you don't get to choose all the ill effects. The same thing with the Democratic Socialists. You don't get to choose. You want change. You want disruption. You want something to shake things up, but you don't always get to choose. And again, that impulse to change things, that impulse to disrupt. That's almost the antithetical impulse to what you're talking about, right? This sort of reflective, deep analysis, right? I don't know that we're going to see a candidate like that, or candidate. I don't think that the culture rewards candidates like that, right? The culture doesn't reward. The culture rewards the populists on either side of the spectrum that are saying, look, it's grievance politics. It's, here's the problem, and let me tell you who to blame for it, and let me give you a solution that, again, tends to blame and demonize or be overly reductionist and simplistic. And that's why we're living where we are with the immigration policies that we have.
Thank you, Scott. Over the weekend, I went out to watch the tall ships sail into New York Harbor. And afterwards, I learned that one of those ships was turned around by the Coast Guard and the NYPD. And the reason they were turned around is because they were, and they're an ecological group. And the reason they were turned around was because they were holding up banners, or they had displayed banners about clean water and so forth. And I see all this condemnation on the internet, and this is Donald Trump's America. Donald Trump won't allow for the free speech for things that he disagrees with. This is Donald Trump's doing. So there's a lot of stuff that the president owns. There's a lot of stuff that the president owns. But if you take a deeper dive into the story, which I don't think a lot of people did, because, of course, folks aren't relying on the mainstream news media any longer, because the mainstream media is so biased, so we have to rely on the real journalists. Those are anybody who has an iPhone. But if they actually took the time to look into this, they would have learned that each one of those entrants into this parade of ships, which was beautiful, wonderful, international, just outstanding to see. I can't say enough about how New York celebrated our 250th anniversary. You would have learned that they all agreed before setting sail to not display any signs of advocacy on their ships, because they wanted to make this an apolitical event. So they had agreed to not do it in order to participate. They violated the agreement, which I guess, is their prerogative to do, but then they were turned around, as was the prerogative of the Coast Guard and the NYPD. It's not Donald Trump saying, oh my God, I just watched on television on Fox that this ship has something that is displaying that is egregious to me. I order the Coast Guard to intervene. That's not what happened. So when it comes to this issue of immigration, it too is a very, very complex issue. But we rely on the headlines and the slogans to make our argumentation as a society, and we don't take that deep dive into the issue. If you really look at the issue of immigration, it's far more complex than it is normally discussed. The information is out there, and it is discussed, but not among the pop culture, right, Scott?
Absolutely, Gary. I couldn't agree more.
And therein lies the problem. We as Americans have become lazy. And why do I say that? Because all that information is available right there on the very internet from which we gain the headlines and the slogans. But you can take a deeper dive and see what the reality is of the situation. And we don't take that time. And then we complain about what we get. Well, shame on us for not informing ourselves. The dynamics of the marketplace right now it's causing a contraction in news coverage. So if there's a dearth of news coverage, then isn't it incumbent upon you and me to look at these issues holistically and not based on the slogans of the internet? I mean, my God, I've been studying this, and they say if you really want attention, say it in under 60 seconds. Do it on camera, and also include the voice to text on your presentation, because nobody's listening, they're just looking. And by the way, if you're a hot woman, your chances of people actually paying attention to what you have to say are much greater than if you are Scott or Gary. I guarantee you that. So, because it's a very visual thing. I don't know, I think we have a responsibility to ourselves, and if we don't take that responsibility, as Pogo said, I've met the enemy and he is us. We have to look into the mirror and say, did we not bring this upon ourselves? And I think that's exactly what we are doing. Ben, followed by Pluto.
Well, Gary, you're not a hot, good-looking woman. I'm surprised. I was mistaken. Sorry, this is something that's new to me. But be that as it may, I think I'm still willing to listen to you, even though you're not hot, good-looking woman.
I really appreciate you making an exception when it comes to the critical thinking.
Yeah, exactly. But Gary, you know what? You're saying people are not thinking, they're not deep diving. Have you not forgotten the adage that ignorance is the bliss? Come on, we all want bliss, and to get to that state of being in the blissful mindset, the best way to do that is to ignore, is to have ignorance. So why would humans want to dive deeper into something like the critical thinking forum, what we talked about, right? So there's your explanation. And along those lines, I want to answer a question that posed by Marshall. You know, he was being very passionate about asking, hey, if I cannot say this to my elected officials or my those in power, what do you want me to say? What can I say to those officials if I cannot criticize them, or saying, express my my will, my opinion regarding what the officials are doing or something? Well, I have a good answer for you, Marshall. It's very easy. I have very simple script for you to follow. There is certainly something you can say. You can say, yes, sir. You're always right. I obey you. You're wonderful. You're not out of things to say. You absolutely have things to say, especially to this administration. And if you do that, I'm sure you'll be fine, relatively speaking. Just don't say something negative. Say something
But
positive.
Ben, I don't want to. I want to tell them they're full of it.
Well, good, Marshall. You know what you want matters not as much as what Donald Trump wants. I'm sorry to tell you the truth. That's just the reality. I respect you. I think I know you more about Donald Trump. I've spoken with you more than with Donald Trump, but this much I know. What you want, what you wish, unfortunately does not matter that much. It's what Trump wants. And the reason is not because you're not as smart, you're not as diligent or hardworking. The reason is because he has the power. He can order National Guard to stop you. Can you? Can you order National Guard from Texas to stop him? No. So just be done with it. Anyway, back to the immigration story, Gary. I think this is something, the story you mentioned, the federal officials visiting someone who merely said something, I can't remember exactly what you're quoting, but something about don't like what the government is doing, or peace. Hopefully the peace will be with them, or something like that. I'm sorry, I'm quoting Star Trek. But the point is Star Wars. The point being that person, I believe, based on what you just quoted, did not make any specific threat against a federal official, as in such and such a date, such and such time and place, I'm gonna damage, hurt them, or kill them. None of that.
You're right. He called Lyons a monstrous human being who will never know peace.
Well, to me, I'm no expert on deciding these cases, but it's fair to say that it does not meet the standard of specific credible threat against a federal official. And I believe that's what most laws would actually adhere to. And it's the same. It's very similar analysis. When we talked about that Los Angeles ICE detention case that issued by Justice Kavanaugh on behalf of the Supreme Court, which basically you're saying that Congress should have some laws or have they should play the role of deciding these standards. They have congressional statutes clearly say it has to be reasonable suspicion based on specific articulable facts. That's the standard by which ICE officials would have the authority to stop and interrogate an individual on the street, thinking that person might be an illegal person, illegal alien. Well, what Justice Kavanaugh and the Supreme Court came out with, so-called specific articulable facts, was that if you hang around certain places like Home Depot, if you speak Spanish or different language, if you belong to a particular race or an ethnicity, that's specific and articulable enough. You can be stopped, and you can be detained. However, briefly, even though the court never even bothered mentioning what the standard for briefly detention, they assumed it's 20 minutes. No, that could be days. That would still be considered reasonable detention on part of the ICE officials. So the courts are really allowing or interpreting congressional statute in a way that's giving the administration, the executive branch, broad brushed leeway of really infringing our individual rights, regardless whether you are a citizen or not. So basically, the reality, as you mentioned a couple of days ago, that in the U.S., technically in most states, we don't need to carry our identification papers. Well, I don't think that's a good strategy in this day and age, particularly if you, the generic you, belongs to some of those four groups as identified by the Supreme Court, particularly race or ethnicity, the ability to speak a foreign language, maybe Spanish, maybe something else, and your habit of hanging around places like Home Depot. Don't do that anymore. Or if you do that, carry your citizenship papers or your passport, if you will. Now, the last thing I want to say is this, Gary. You actually mentioned Pakistan or North Korea in terms of what they could do to the illegal aliens, like detain them or maybe even arrest them or jail them or something like that. Well, guess what?
In the case of North Korea, they put them to death, actually.
Oh, sure. Well, actually, even in Europe, for example, when I was in France, I think people were carrying papers because, gypsies were stopped by the French police to show their passports. Okay, this is many years ago. I don't want to badmouth France. This is probably, many, many years ago. But here's my point, Gary. I think by merely saying that, you've pretty much answered your own question, which is that, are we benchmarking living in the U.S., freedom to speech, freedom to really associate our general freedoms in the U.S., are we benchmarking that against Pakistan and North Korea? And if we are, we're certainly better off than those countries. Absolutely. Even this day and age under Trump, I still think we have a lot more freedoms, a lot more opportunity than those other countries, right? Pakistan or North Korea. But guess what? The fact that those three countries are even mentioned in the same sentence, benchmarking our lifestyle and freedom to live, freedom to express against those other countries, that tells me something quite substantial, quite significant. And I'll land on this sort of joke by Ronald Reagan. There was a video. He was talking about Gorbachev, an American diplomat, and talking with a Russian diplomat. The American diplomat says, "Oh, we have so much freedom in the U.S. I can walk into President's White House and say in front of President Reagan, 'Hey, President Reagan, I don't like the way you run our country. You suck.'" I'm paraphrasing this, and we can do that, and we'll be fine. And then the Russian diplomat says, "Hey, that's the same here in Russia. I can walk into Mr. Gorbachev's office and say, 'Mr. Gorbachev, I don't like the way Mr. Reagan is running the country of the U.S. I think he sucks.' Same freedom." So I'll leave you with that. Hopefully this will bring a smile on your face. This July 4th, it's 250 years of independence. Thank you, Greg.
So Ben, you mentioned that I mentioned Pakistan and North Korea, but I also mentioned India. And India is a democracy, which presumably has some of the same freedoms that we enjoy here in the United States. So is that a fair benchmark?
So the thing is this, Gary. This goes back to slightly a broader topic, but it's the same. To me, it's the same thing. I think labeling or calling someone by a name, someone could be a country, is not important anymore. It's kind of related to what we talked about regarding the Democratic Social Party in New York and other elections, or in Colorado. Calling them communist or socialist, or you'll get to all this Wikipedia definition. What is a communist? What is a socialist? What is a capitalist? I think the important thing to people is that what you do. You can call someone, a gray or a grass or whatever. It really is literally what they actually do, their policies. Just by calling a country is, whether it's North Korea or Cuba or France or UK or China, I think that goes back to what you were saying. We need to take a little deeper dive as under the name of the label, whether you're a Democrat or whether you're Republican, it's all not that important. It's what you support. I mean, on this platform, there are many people that claim to be, I'm a lifelong Democrat, and yet they vote for Trump. They support Trump. What, was that not normal? Of course it's normal. It's fine. I mean, it's really literally what your action, not the label. So whether it's Pakistan, whether it's North Korea, whether it's United States of America, just because you have a label does not mean that you are that forever. Things could change. Okay. Well, in the olden days, like 20 years ago, maybe it's okay to say, "Oh, I hate this federal official. They suck. They're not something that I would support to. I hate them." Blah blah blah. That might be okay. Well, now it may not be. So the U.S. is still the U.S. It's still a democracy. It's still the same constitution. Times have changed, like Justice Roberts said, but the constitution is the same. So look at the action, the policies, but not so much just the label.
Well, I will note that India, no matter what one might label it, is like the United States is a multicultural democracy. It guarantees foundational civil liberties, including freedom of speech, to which we are kind of discussing right now. Freedom of assembly, freedom of religion. They don't have a First Amendment that protects the press to the degree that our First Amendment does. But they do have, in a broader sense, protections of the news organizations. They're not as good as here. There are organizations that fight for press freedom. Sometimes they're successful, sometimes they're not. But that's a country where if you're caught in there illegally, you will serve prison time. Not just deportation, but actual prison time. So I think in some regards it's fair to compare how we are far more liberal in our approach to our detainees than are some of the other countries. I'm not arguing that our detainees are being properly housed and treated. I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying that there are other countries where they actually codify the right to incarcerate those individuals. And I think it's fair to bring that up, don't you?
Yeah, can I just say one last thing? I think it's the comparison is whether it's horizontal or vertical. I'm not disagreeing with you to say that horizontally, compare the U.S. against many other countries, if not all other countries, it is very nice. It is a lot of freedoms. It's very decent. It's still very, even powerful to begin with. However, people do compare it vertically or longitudinally, if you will. Meaning they compare themselves against 20 years ago, 30 years ago, or 10 years ago. So it's the fact that the U.S. still has better things or system than India or Pakistan or North Korea. Nobody would deny that. But that does not negate the fact that if we're looking at the U.S. in the previous olden time, you're old enough, Gary. You're not 20 years old. If at a certain point in time, if we had, it's not like a standard of living. If youngsters are complaining, oh, we cannot buy a house anymore like our parents did or the baby boomers did, it doesn't mean that they're saying the U.S. is worse than the other countries today, right? They're saying that, hey, I'm not better off than my parents because of A and B and C and D, right? So that is something the two, I mean, we're all adults. Two things can be true at the same time. So I think my point being, compare or sort of my dissatisfaction with this current administration is kind of going back to what Marshall was saying, that we're still very good, but hey, we probably remember maybe some years ago, it would be fine to say, oh, these policies of ICE are terrible. They're not peace living, blah, blah, blah. And you'll be fine. You will not have an FBI knocking on your doors, or whatever federal officials on your doors. Or when you come to this country and if your social media says something bad about J.D. Vance, like a bad picture or caricature, like a joke, like a cartoon, it's fine. The CBP customer officer will just laugh and say, hey, you're just ridiculing the Vice President of the United States. Well, today, 2026, that might be a problem for you. You may not be admitted into the U.S. That's not a good thing, frankly. That does not make you proud. That does not make you feel more American exceptionalist. American exceptionalism. In the olden days, it may be, but nowadays, I think the vertical comparison versus the horizontal comparison is not that pretty.
Your response suggests to me that you misunderstand the point that I was making. I wasn't arguing that our situation is better than it is in India or Pakistan, for example. I just said that it's different. And there might be people who would suggest that I'm not for sure suggesting that we put to death people who were in the country illegally, like they do in North Korea. But there are those who might say, oh, Gary's got a point there. They do a much better job of controlling immigration in India and Pakistan than we do here in the United States. So I don't know where you interpret my laying out the facts as an argument when I never gave it an argument. I just laid out the facts. Maybe in my mind, and I'm not saying it is, I feel like instead of detaining and deporting, maybe we should incarcerate them for a number of years. How do you know that that's not my position? You don't, because I haven't said in one way or the other. I'm just pointing out that in other countries they handle it completely different. We're very liberal in our treatment of illegal immigrants. I'm not saying that's good and I'm not saying that's bad, but I'm pointing it out as a fact. We house people. We provide social services for people. We provide education for people. We provide medical care for people. If I'm in the country illegally and I go to the hospital, they don't check my bona fides. They treat me. In other countries, they might put me in prison. You might say, wow, that's great that we have these freedoms in the United States, or that the immigrants have these freedoms in the United States that elude them in other countries. But you could take those same facts and look at it from a different perspective and say, why are we doing this? Why are my tax dollars paying for the education of illegal immigrants? And that's a discussion valuable of us having, but I'm just saying you presume a point of view when I present some facts, when I never presented a point of view one way or the other.
Well, I think it's my assumption, actually. I'm making this assumption that when we have been a generous country, not the generous country as in open borders. I absolutely disagree with that. There's no argument. But when we are having more opportunity to express our thoughts, our dissatisfactions against our government officials without being afraid of any political consequences, I think that's a better country than what it is now. Again, as I was comparing laterally, with other country, I'm recognizing that even now, under the so-called more restricted environment, we're still better than North Korea or Pakistan. But I'm making a point that we could be better. Doesn't Donald Trump wants to make America great again? Well, I just want to make America better again. Maybe not great, but better again, better than what we are experiencing in terms of limited freedom, in terms of our policies that are not conducive to cultivate family values, of the rights that are being guaranteed in the Constitution, in my personal opinion. Of course, not according to the Supreme Court. So that's my point. I think your assumption is fair. I mean, I recognize that there are other people that even wanted to be perhaps just like those other countries. Okay? Maybe not to the extreme of jailing people for being illegal alien, but just to kick them out. Don't care too much about whatever their rights are, if you will. Sure. And perhaps there's a significant number of those individuals that are voting, getting these officials into public office. But we're a critical thinking forum. We're just laying out that I'm also describing sort of a fact, what's been happening, the evolution, the changes of the U.S. My personal opinion on American exceptionalism is that the U.S. has been strong beyond just having more missiles or nuclear bombs or the dollar strength. There's certain moral, certain sort of a lifestyle or ideals that I would adhere to. We can certainly give up those ideals for sure, no problem, just like those other countries. But having said that, remember, then we would be at a lesser position of criticizing other countries, of standing on the top of the soapbox, lecturing these other countries, because literally we're even comparing ourselves to North Korea and Pakistan. That to me is quite new, not impossible, not illogical, but that is something that we'll have to be ready to accept. Just personal thoughts.
Thank you, Ben. We'll go to Casper, followed by Simba.
Gary, I want to say that if possible, I'd like to tie your most recent Substack to this discussion of immigration, if that's okay. In the Substack, which is excellent, you point out that certain religious groups are hiding their identity because...
well, one religious group.
Okay, so I'm trying to use euphemisms to not trigger people in the room, but there's certain people in America who will stab you and murder you based on your religion. We all know that's the fact. And you, in that article, I think you say it's sad that America has these killers who are killing people based on their religion. I think you think it's a negative thing. Well, I would like to connect this discussion of immigration because the fact of the matter, Gary, in very succinct, simple terms, is the progressive people, the leftists, have allowed immigrants that are the perpetrators of those crimes. So what I'm saying is the decision by the progressive community to allow immigration of killers is what's causing the killing. And in particular, I would call your attention, Gary, to Malmo, where the progressives, the leftists, they have flooded Malmo with killers. And that community you wrote about in your Substack has been entirely driven out. The pogroms in Kristallnacht have driven out. So I'll close by saying, Gary, you are smart, you are correct, you are ethical to lament the murders and the religious-based attacks. But I respectfully think that your friends in the progressive movements are what's causing those attacks. And you should call out the progressives for allowing that immigration. And if the immigration continues, the violence and murders will continue. And I say that with love, respect. Goodbye, Gary.
So there are examples of immigrants attacking Jews in the United States. You're absolutely correct. One notable example is the Egyptian national charged with a federal hate crime after throwing Molotov cocktails at a pro-Israel march in Boulder, Colorado. The other, which hit close to home for me, that comes to mind, is the attack by the guy from Lebanon on the daycare center attached to Temple Israel in West Bloomfield, Michigan. These are examples of immigrants attacking Jews. But I will say that most of the intimidation and hate crimes that I have seen, at least here in New York, where there is a huge spike of hate crimes against Jewish people, are being perpetrated by American citizens, born and bred. So,
absolutely. Gary, I hate to interrupt, but if we could try to bring Miss Misa up in New York, she'd like to speak as well.
Well, I brought her. She's up.
Oh, okay, I couldn't see it.
Yeah, I'll bring everybody up whose hand is up.
It's Big M, not Miss Misa, unless I can't see it.
I always bring people who raise their hand time.
No, I just wanted to bring it to your attention. Sorry.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah. Big M.
So I just joined. I didn't hear the context before the talk, but what's on my heart right now is actually what's happening in Maine, not really this topic. So I'll come back tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. There are a couple people in the audience, as Marshall have mentioned, whose hands are up, who we've repeatedly invited onto the stage. Now,
it's the clubhouse push, Gary. That's what it is. Ms. Miso, what you might try is leaving and coming back, and it should allow us to bring you right up. It's like Clubhouse has this weird glitch, Gary, where there is a lot of the time people will come in and they'll raise their hand, and none of us can invite them up until they leave and come back. It's a piece of computer code that I don't particularly understand.
well, apparently Clubhouse doesn't understand it either because they have not obviated the problem. And it looks like the various individuals whose hands are up are not making it up to the stage. So for that, we extend our regrets and apologies, but this gives us an opportunity to wrap it up early today. Folks, we're here Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock New York time, so until 5 p.m. New York time tomorrow. For the next edition of the Critical Thinking Forum, everybody be safe, be well, and peace out.
he's just mad at Megatron. He said Megatron is boring.
No. Leave him up here, man. Don't put him down. Don't put him down. Come on, let him talk, man. Let him.
CJ, come back up. I'll talk to you. The mic is just bad, bro. He knows it's bad. CJ, he just said it. His mic is so bad. Dude, I'm sorry, CJ. Your mic doesn't. It's hurting my ears.
You actually have a child in the house. Holy shit, bro. You got a kid. You have a baby. Holy shit. Go take care of that baby. You lazy, disgusting.
What are we doing right now? What are we doing right now, bro? You know how boring this is. You know how boring.
Go let you kids learn new language. You're a shitty mother. That's what you are. Holy shit, bro. Imagine spending time in Clubhouse speaking to strangers while your kid is actually playing with toys. Go play with your kid, you disgusting mother, bro. Holy shit. That's horrible, bro.
You know how boring this guy is? So can I say something?
Bullshit, Kevin. You don't know who I am. I'm just not even trying to.
I know something about you. There is something I know about you. Can I speak?
Not really. I'm just gonna touch it this game until she kicks me out.
I do know. I'm not gonna kick you out.
Your kid was never gonna be smart because you didn't take care of him. You're actually speaking to strangers. You're a horrible mother. Horrible mother.
Okay. Can I talk, please, sir? Am I allowed to talk?
You're not allowed until I finish. I will let you know when I finish. Is that okay with you?
Just let me know when you're done.
Yeah, sure, 100%. Yeah, if you have kids, that's a fucking big investment. You just don't go and speak to strangers. Teach your kid a new language, math, whatever. Stop speaking to strangers. I bet you're bored if you're a kid. You're not having fun being a mother. You're a horrible mother. Now you can speak, God bless you. After I leave, yeah? Peace, motherfuckers.
You know how boring he is? He couldn't even find, he couldn't even think of something interesting to put in his profile. He just left his oh shit, he left. He didn't get to hear me say that. I was gonna make fun of him for, which is kind of corny, but kind of a troll, but I was gonna make fun of him for having a fake blank profile. Wait, did he leave or did you guys kick him? I didn't kick him.
He left.
He's just giving me a headache. Bring him back up, Megatron said.
Yeah, that was great. You heard all that? That was.
Why put him down? Because he was being mean to you.
No, what I'm saying is, like, the guy is amazing. Like, did you see what he just did? For no reason. No reason.
Well, it was because I put him down. My head was hurting, and he's in my. I had headphones on, so he's in my headphones, like.
Yeah, he's the worst. That's why he came in here. That was just to be mean, because he's a true Muslim.
Just gotta figure out what their religion is, and then it's all their profit. That's the best way to go.
Yeah, like, what was he doing right there? Why was he doing all that? That was, like, all unnecessary. You think he feels good about himself right now?
Gonna get Megatron, but he's trying to get you.
Yeah, he was calling me this. All I do is talk about one thing, yeah. These guys hate me. Oh my god. It's fucking great.
Nobody hates you. People think you're a fucking loser. You didn't do nothing. We're mocking you, you fucking retard. He's basically Andrew, just a different variety.
For the past 2-3 weeks, I've been tolerating this behavior. Wants to be off the mic, wants to ad-lib every 2 seconds. Every 2 seconds. Yesterday, she goes, put me in 3-strike law. I kept on saying, yesterday I was like, please, lower the volume. Please mute up.
Lower the
Please
volume.
She would not do that. And
Violence happening when like the Antifa far left is gonna come out and maybe fucking encounter the Proud Boys or whatever fucking white supremacists or not are gonna fucking organize with in Canada. That again, it's gonna be a minority, but they're gonna be clashing it to such a point that whatever city this is happening, they're gonna start implementing martial law. They're gonna bring in what's it called? What's an army for the state?
National Guard.
National Guards. The average civilian is gonna fucking feel the effects of it with martial law and everything. And I think that's all gonna be more of a ripple effect. It's gonna just bring more hate, more divide. And I think it's just, this is the beginning of it. That's how I see it.
It'll be put down quickly.
Historically, in America, right, there is always this fear, historically, not now, right from the Revolutionary War to the Civil War, after Civil War, to Depression and everything, there is this fear of civil breakdown. But that also, on the flip side, always acted as a pressure war, right? Every time, during the Depression, whenever this fear of civil war and civil breakdown, second civil war coming in, that helped push the New Deal reforms, which never would have happened if not for that fear. Likewise, in 1960s, if not for all the urban, civil unrest, threat of violence, if not for that, there would never have been the civil rights legislation, because at that point of time, the 1960s, the assumption was, if you're not going to do it, it will be another civil war. It was that fear which made some civil rights legislations possible. So historically, America has this fear, if things are getting worse, if you do not compromise, it's going to lead to civil war, it's going to lead to much more worse. So that fear,
Much
in a
more
way,
worse
actually
is coming
makes
our
compromise possible. That happened throughout American history. That doesn't mean that it's going to get into reality, that fear will become real and there will be civil war. But that fear is actually, at some level, is good.
Because the New Deal was not driven by a fear of civil war. It was driven by economics and the Great Depression. It was.
Right, but then
there was no fear of civil war then, and I don't think there was a fear of civil war for LBJ and the Great Society Project. All of those laws, the Civil Rights Movement. There were injustices that needed to be reformed, but I don't think there was I don't remember any historian with the thesis that there's been an ongoing fear of civil war. There was an actual civil war, but except for that area, I don't think there's been an ongoing fear of civil war. I think that's overstating it.
Yeah, I may be hyperbolic, but then the point.
Yeah, I'm very hyperbolic.
Yeah, but the point is that helped actually to be compromised, right? If it not for the threat, if not for the urban violence, if not for that urban violence again becoming hyperbolic, what we are talking now, we are talking about hyperbolic only. We this civil war is going to happen. America has become disunited. That is hyperbolic. So the same kind of hyperbolism was there in the 1960s, and that actually helped, to drive some compromises there.
But it was very peaceful. It was peaceful demonstrations. It wasn't.
It was what we are having now. Are we going to say that we are going to have a civil war on the streets? No. There was some level of violence which was there in the 1960s too.
Very much so. Very much so.
Yeah, it's
not broad scale though, not like a civil war kind of thing.
That's extreme. but people went to the streets, and there was.
Yeah, they went to the street, but it wasn't.
And there was
by and large.
violence.
Yeah, but by and large, it was a peaceful protest.
No, it is similar to what we're doing now. In 1960s Vietnam, they were American right-wing burning American flags in the South. There were American left-wing burning American flags in the Northeast and in the universities. And then people thought this would be this is going extreme. And so the same kind of talk I'm hearing now was there too. It is hyperbolic now. It was hyperbolic at that point of time. But then that hyperbolic talk actually helped some compromises to achieve at the point of time. So this is not. There is no way we're going to have a civil war in U.S. because of the institutional structures this country has.
Not just that, but respectfully, and I agree with everything you're saying, sir. Most people don't give a shit. They really don't. They don't care about civil rights. They don't care about voters' rights, women's rights, none of it. They don't. They care about their daily life. That's how Americans are. Yeah, we'll voice our opinion and we'll scream with the temper tantrums. But when it comes to action, Americans are lazy.
That's exactly right, JB. That's what I wanted to say also. The laziness is the big problem.
Well, if being lazy stops a civil war, I'm all for it.
Sorry, Keith, I didn't hear what you said. Say it again.
I said if being lazy stops a civil war,
45th Ward.
I'm all for being lazy.
If it does. Sometimes when the rest of us get lazy, it's the real tough people who are making a change, and we're not behind that. We got to be careful who steps in for us.
Hello? These people have forgotten how to read a fucking book.
Lazy Americans.
You know what's lazy? Coming on a social audio chat app and running your fucking mouth talking about everything. Everything under the sun. There will be no civil war. How long will we have this conversation?
They may even hold up a sign. But when it comes to call action, man, Americans are going home, having their Coors Light, putting their feet up and watching Fox or CNN.
Yeah, but look how people are outspoken about what America should do and what they should and should America do. Even the division of the war in Iran. That's a war for the future. And people aren't understanding. Every day you let Iran get stronger, America will have to invade it. So if it's not you today invading, it's going to be your children tomorrow invading.
Oh, really? Our children are going to go invade Iran?
So you're going to deal with the threat to your children.
So Iran's going to conquer America?
It's not. Iran is going to be a threat to America. It could be either homegrown terrorism. It could be just terrorism in general. It could be terrorizing your proxies. It could be terrorizing your other NATO partners. That's going to involve you to get into war. So the question, you're going to get involved today, or you're going to leave it to your
Good
children?
Lord, that chick was so fat.
Because Iran is a threat to America, and Americans don't believe that's a threat. They've been indoctrinated and brainwashed that anti-American values are good values now, and everything that is American is bad. Americans are burning their own fucking flag. I'm sorry to say, Hakima, that is pretty fucked up. That hasn't happened, I don't know when. I've never seen a person burn their own flag.
We got it everywhere.
Burning American flag is a very American tradition.
Very American.
Burning an American flag is an American tradition.
Yes, it is.
Yep.
Yes. That's what makes America freedom.
No, I don't remember when was the last time American flag was getting burned, to be honest.
Every day, all the time, non-stop, everywhere, all around the world.
American flag
again,
on a regular basis.
Listen, I'm 37 years old, right? I remember 37 years, or when was it, like about a year or two ago, they were burning the American flag. Americans on American soil during protests. Please refresh my mind during a protest when people are just burning the American flag.
You can Google it.
You guys...
It's everywhere. I mean, American flag's been burned for decades. It's not long.
60s is a very prominent. I can vouch for it. 60s. I mean, I can vouch in the sense, like, from a history perspective, you have both the left and right who are burning it for different reasons.
Correct.
Who was burning it because against the civil rights, and the left was burning against
Correct. I will tell you what is correct and what is wrong. Oh my God. Never soul.
Thank you, Matcha. That was great.
That's very interesting. Again, 60s, I know they were like the years of the protests. Like when I said the left were protesting a lot, and it was peaceful protest. The left being usually peaceful protesters compared to the right. And I'll give that to Fatima, but lately it's been becoming a little opposite. In what I've been viewing, I'm seeing the left being more violent lately in the past decade, in the past 10 years, with their protests. That's what I'm saying, like the right is waking up again. That's what I mean by that, PP. Are they going to become violent too? And are you going to have now two parties that are violent? What happens when they meet?
That's what the American government is for, not to just let people just kill each other in the streets.
How would you squash when there's, let's say, 400 Antifas or whatever side that's ready to fucking be violent while they're fucking walking with 2,000 civilized people, 3,000 civilized
The civilized people should get out the mix. If they're not with guns and violence, they should get out the mix. And if it's 400 people on each side shooting each other, I'm okay with the government dropping a bomb on all 800 of them.
Okay.
People talk about burning American flags, but then the flip side, if you look at it, America has the most flag hoisting country in the world. Every 1 in 10 American homes hoist their flag. You do not find that in any other country outside of US. The kind of flag hoisting culture US has, it's very, very unique. Outside countries, you find them in government offices, schools, college, all these things. But then in America, you find it in homes. And this is true irrespective of whether it's north, south, east, west. It's a very American tradition. So Americans burn the flags, but they also hoist their flags very much.
It's pretty fucked up. The indoctrination is real, guys. Remember that. So you guys all sound pretty confident. I don't know. I was kind of rooting for a fucking full-out blown, how do you call it? Civil war. To simmer everybody down.
So the interesting point is which other countries have. I mean, there are many countries you can list it out which can go through civil war. But the interesting question is how many of them will succeed, and the answer is very, very few. I mean, this is not a century wherein civil wars will succeed. What's the likely option is you'll have color revolutions like you're having in different countries, wherein one country may for good or worse they get influenced by other country, and then you have the youth of the country or someone protesting, trying to do internal regime change. That kind of thing might happen, but then physical civil wars, you might have happen in some countries in Africa, but beside it, it's very rare coming. In America, that's even more rare.
Again, as Jakob said, I believe America will never get invaded. Geographically, and the way America is set up, America cannot get invaded. It's like a death wish to try to invade America.
A revolution is more likely than a civil war or an invasion.
You don't believe it?
A revolution is, I'm not saying a revolution will happen, but it is more likely than a civil war or an invasion from a foreign nation.
You don't a revolution from a foreign nation by how?
No, I said a revolution by the people, not a foreign nation would not come in America, in my opinion.
Oh, okay, got
You're
it.
talking about amongst ourselves, Hakima?
Right, yes, amongst ourselves, I believe a revolution against the government is, not saying it's going to happen, but it's more likely than an invasion or a civil war.
Okay, but let me ask you, how do you see a revolution happening? How do you see everybody uniting? Usually people unite after something dramatic happens.
You just said a lot of dramatic things are happening, so.
Well, again, it's not really dramatic. It's divisive. As a person that, again, as a Canadian that I'm watching, but again, I don't give a shit for the right or the left. But I'm seeing some people do care. And some people are showing that they're caring. Like, again, those guys, why the fuck did you come out the way you guys came out? Hiding your faces, you know, like, again, you're intimidating. So, I don't think it was in good interest for them to come out. Like, they didn't have anything good by coming out. Like, nothing good came out of that. I think it was just to intimidate. And, again, a revolution, for something to happen like a revolution, I believe you need to go through something that is going to divide you to such a point that it's going to be either fear or something that's going to have to unite. Like the Jews, for example, I'll use the Jews as an example. Before October 7th, they were very divided, even on Clubhouse. But after October 7th, they became very united, both the left and the right. They started sharing the same opinions of the one state that now they didn't believe a two-state after October 7th. Something dramatic had to happen.
That means, I mean, like I said, something. I get you, but we're not gonna stay where we at in a revolution to happen. Something dramatic will have to happen. What that will look like, I have no idea. Like I said, I'm not even sure a revolution will happen. I'm closer to being positive than a civil war or a foreign invasion. I don't believe neither, but that's very unlikely in my opinion.
Localized unrest might happen. I mean, what Rafi is referring to is more like localized unrest. But then revolution means we are talking about throughout the country. That is much more difficult, to materialize.
I feel the same, Acha and Rafi.
Local unrest, meaning something's gonna happen violent, that local unrest gonna happen, then they bring in the National Guards into your cities, wherever this has happened.
A toast?
To watch over and govern over the people. So, again, something dramatic needs to happen. So it's going to be either very violent protests, flashing. Yes, the police are not going to be able to control them. They're going to bring in the National Guards.
We've done this in our history before.
And what do we know? Grace, we know that history repeats itself.
That's correct.
History always repeats itself. It's just a matter of time. And I'm noticing it's building up to it. Sadly to say. But the governments allowed it to happen. They're the one that caused this division. I blame the governments. Instead of uniting the people, they keep dividing the people.
That's right, and they're standing with words that are just hitting our population.
Exactly, the words that they're using. Oh, you're right, you're a fascist. Right, because I'm conservative, I'm a fascist, okay. You're now labeling, amazing.
And labeling heightens the hatred.
Of course. People don't want to talk. People just want to yell, scream at each other.
Rafi, you're in Canada, right? So in Canada,
correct.
There is an Alberta independence movement going on. They want to actually join US. So the likelihood that America is going to gain a province is more than actually America losing a province.
But Canada, well, if they're gaining a province like Ontario, or they're gaining a province like Vancouver, BC, British Columbia, it's like gaining another fucking California states. Yes, then you have Calgary that is more, would be a red state, would be more Republican. You have like Winnipeg, like those, the prairies, that would be probably more Republican. But all major cities with the most population, they're all Democrats and hardcore Democrats.
Yeah, but then Alberta is, not, it's not, liberal, correct?
Correct. It is a it's a Republican state, a conservative, you would say, in Canada.
Conservative, correct?
Correct.
And
Alberta.
they're the one who wants to join the U.S.
They're the ones that want the referendum, correct.
Yeah. So, is that likelihood? Is that, if a referendum happens, what is the chances that people voting for majority could join the U.S.?
I don't know if Canada will allow it. I heard there's ways Canada can kind of stop it. That's what I heard.
Obviously, it will stop, right? Because it doesn't want to lose a province. But
well, it's not a province. It's in the middle of the fucking country. If I need to go to BC, I have to go through Alberta. How the fuck am I going to BC now, Canada? Through Canada. You just divided the country in half. You just, basically now I have to enter America to get to the other part of Canada.
Right, but I mean, you could still go around it, but then that would be much more difficult. But your point is right.
Well, logistically, it's going to be difficult. Then logistically, how are we going to transport goods now from Vancouver? Are we going to get like some sort of deal, like if we're just cross-bordering it through the U.S. into the next, back into the same country? Are we going to pay duties on it? Do we pay tolls to America? Now is duties going to be more? Now, is the product that's going to be coming from the east to the west more expensive, or vice versa from the west to the east? Are we going to be paying taxes for any services that we have to go through America? It's going to be, or to drive around it, now you're paying fuel charges. There are going to be more. There's so many variables to it.
Right. I mean, all those things are there. But my point was, if a referendum is held today, what is the chances that majority of them actually, do they vote it, or is it more like it's just noise?
No, they would get it. Most likely they're going to get it.
Most people don't even pay attention. That's the problem also.
Thanks for that generalization.
The only people that go out to vote for it will be the hardcore right. That are just tired of Canada.
Graham Plattner looks like he's out.
Or people that are just, again,
he raped her.
We don't want to be American. We're going to vote against you. But it's not going to be that. It's not going to be like your elections that you would have for the government. I don't think it's going to be like one of those that. I don't think. But Alberta is a very conservative province. These are blue collar jobs that they most of them hold. They're very conservative.
And they want to leave Canada because of economic reasons, or social, political.
Correct, economic and social. It's both.
It goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
Different. It's different. And it is.
But in this case, it's both.
It is both.
They don't like the Liberal government, what they stand for. They don't like whatever Canada's turning into. Economically, we're doing shit under the Liberal government.
But, Carney, for me, it looks like he's much better than Trudeau, right? 10x much better.
But what's better? How can you say he's better compared
to Trudeau? Is it
compared to Trudeau? No, it's the same shit.
Yeah, we're looking for somebody who can stabilize the economy, to let people there grow and feel that they are growing in their pocket.
Let me ask you a different question, Macho. Do you think Obama and Joe Biden were two different people? Or the fact is that one just didn't make announcement, the one didn't speak like the other, but the policies were the same. Nothing really changed with the policies. It was the same policies that Obama was running, Joe Biden was running. Yes, two different people. One spoke more better than the other. One didn't speak at all. But the policies were the same.
Oh, so nothing changed under Kanye as well then, from policy perspective?
Well, again, it's this, why would you change the policies that the Liberals already put in front, that the Liberals voted for? Why would you change them? A conservative would come in and change Liberal policies. And we haven't had a conservative government in the past 10 years, almost a decade. which the country hasn't been doing for the past 10 years. We're just going down. We're spending more. We're not feeling it as average Canadian. Again, a lot of Canadians feel betrayed with the immigration policy that we have here. People that were contributing all their life to, like, towards taxes, towards the growth of their cities or whatever, that they were contributing towards Canada in general by paying taxes, working here. Now, when they're in the retirement stages, a person that's either a veteran or a retiree will get paid less than an immigrant that never contributed to this country, that comes here with 2, 3 kids, 4 kids, and they don't want to assimilate. How is that fair? You think I think Canadians are not going to be mad at that?
But then for some reason, they still keep voting Liberals though, right?
That nobody understands what the fuck this is happening. And like, I talk to people, okay, so this time I find that people are more truthful about that. Yes, I'm noticing some people did vote in Mark Carney because they were afraid of Pierre Olivier. But when I asked when Trudeau ran last time, especially in a very liberal city, in a liberal province, where every single person was making fun of how Trudeau won again, and you couldn't find one person that voted for him, that would admit that they voted for him, unless they were closeted voters. But everybody was laughing how he won again. Yeah, the first time, second time, yeah, the third time, nobody knows how the fuck he won. And even the Mark Carney, he was never elected. They put him in. Similar to what they did with Kamala Harris, with you guys.
But Carney's popularity is though much higher. That's what I read.
Again, Mark Carney, as I said, some people are admitting that they voted for him. I'll give it to Mark Carney. But like Trudeau, you keep saying how they get voted in again. I don't know how Trudeau won his third election. I seriously don't know. Second, sure. First, yes, 100%. He promised marijuana. A lot of people came out. They voted for it. People admitted it. People admitted it even on the second one that they still believe he's a good prime minister. On the third, nobody really would speak about him. He was just a running joke between everybody who would like bring his name up. Everybody's like, how the fuck he won? I'm like, you voted for him. So I didn't fucking vote for him. Every person I would like say, you voted for him. You didn't vote. Unless they were closeted voters. I don't know. Everything's possible. What's up, Maxed? So he wants to say hello. But yeah, it's pretty fucking wild.
Hello, Mixed.
Hello.
It's probably working. Hello. What's goodies with you?
Not much. Just chilling. Same as usual.
Nice. Exactly. You believe there's a next similar to like a civil war in America? Or you don't believe it either?
No. America is not military warfare and strategy is not conducive to a modern civil war. It'd be far more likely rioting. That's what happens with civil unrest in America.
Well,
it's not peaceful protesting, it's unpeaceful protesting.
Well, my thing is, I have a feeling that the far right and the far left are going to clash. I'm not saying like the left and right, I mean the far right.
What, they're going to have a gang war like the Jets and the Sharks?
Makes that bringing them back to reality!
To see a modern, like, revival of West Side Story that was just far right crazies and far left.
Get him, Mixed!
Pretty good.
Get him, Mixed!
I believe this is what's leading up to. I believe the way that Americans are divided on politics, like on religion, like what it is in the Middle East between religions, Americans are divided on politics.
That's what they thought about, what was it, Tony and Maria?
What's that?
The names of West Side Story. I mean, they're stand-ins for Romeo and Juliet.
Got it.
Do you know that the Jews have, it's not like a perfect correlation, but the Jews kind of also have a Romeo and Juliet story?
No, I didn't know that.
It's the story of Shimshon.
Oh, okay, I never...
Sorry. Yeah. Okay. So if you think about it, the foundational elements of the tragedy of Romeo and Juliet is two feuding families where two members of both family fall in love, and that results in chaos. It incites the battle between the families until everyone ends up dead because it's a tragedy. There's a little bit of like, oh, she tries to trick them that she's dead. He thinks she's dead, so he dies, and then she dies anyway. They all end up dead. It's a tragedy, right? Shimshon tells almost an identical story about a man whose strength comes from his beauty and who taunts a feuding nearby tribe through marriage proposals and marriage parties and engagements. But then is eventually undone by the woman he fell in love with, who convinces him to lose his strength. And like the more moralizing Jewish approach is that it's bad to take sex against the family. Like it's bad behavior. God will save you. Like if what you did was righteous, but like it is a tragedy. But I mean, it's given from the perspective less of like third person omniscient. It's more from the perspective of Jewish tribal negotiations.
Interesting idea.
Not bad.
Yo, guys, I gotta start driving to the airport. I need Grace. Chloe here.
I am here.
We need to take over a bit.
Okay.
To be active. But
Were you continuing, Caleb, or you finished?
Nope. Okay.
So what are some of our solutions about far right versus left? How can we get in the middle?
How do we get in the middle?
I think there is a middle. Maybe a silent middle, or a hopeless middle. I feel that. I don't know. The thing I keep coming into is like we've forgotten how to talk to each other. Have your political views out here. We don't talk to each other.
I'm in full agreement.
And because we don't have skills to talk to each other, right?
That is exactly the problem.
Yeah, I did this whole thing. You should do it next time it comes out. Maybe you've already done it. And Pardes has this.
Pardes is great on it. Exactly.
Yeah, they're really good.
How to get to understanding each other. And
so I just did like an 8-session thing with them, which was really, really good. Lots of strategies in there for all kinds of settings, right? Not just political discussions, marriage counseling, parenting, all kinds of stuff. That's what I think. Figure out how to talk to each other.
You're coming out, but the problem is our inability to talk to each other.
Can you hear me now?
I couldn't hear you, but did you hear what I said?
Yes, that's very funny.
The issue is like, it's almost that we need to be taught. How do we have discourse with an understanding of each other and with the opportunity to respect even though we don't agree?
Yeah. This is one of my sermons, I think, for this year.
It's mine. Standing and new eyes and ears. And this idea of constantly demonizing the other is not going to be helpful.
Nope, that's true.
And that has been long-standing, and it needs to be addressed from many different levels. If we demonize, there's nowhere else to go.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not an argument, right? It's not a conversation. It's,
But it's played out in arguments. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And so I keep saying to everyone, I am happy to listen to perspectives as long as those perspectives are not rooted so deep that you can't understand a different perspective.
That's a good way to say that.
And if we don't do that, we are going to have a civil war. Because we're standing on places that have
We are going to have a civil war. Did she not hear what the fuck McZed just said? Some people are fucking retarded.
Yeah, civil war, it's interesting. I think somebody said it before, maybe it was Yakov, that maybe there'll be some kind of reorganizing of states or
get deported by Donald Trump. Like you come here and you want to call yourself an American, dude, and then you just shit all over the American people in our way and our.
I'm figuring out new things. Let's say.
Find
them. Yeah, exactly. I'll tell you as I progress in my seeking. But I have one thing to say. I joined the topic later. But Miss Nancy was saying about Adam and Eve, that Eve is made of the rib of Adam, right? That just doesn't sound
that's what we
logical, right?
Yeah.
But it could very well be, if you look scientifically at it, right, it doesn't necessarily have to be a rib ripped out of a human being and then suddenly that rib turned into a female. Necessarily, it could be that because the male has X and the Y chromosome and the women only have double X chromosome, right? It could very well be that it's a mutation thing. That at some point the mutation happened, and we diverged from monkeys to humans.
That's also a thing. Yeah. But how is that if we were already humans?
That's a mistake, though.
Yeah.
Human beings are a mistake for sure.
No. The merging from monkeys.
Some of us are definitely a mistake, I can tell you.
You see a lot of pictures, about
the mistake is
Neanderthals.
The mistake is thinking humans merged from monkeys. That's the mistake I'm calling out.
All right. So what's your theory on that?
Well, if you want, we are they're ancestors of ours. However, the branching of old world monkeys and new world monkeys went one way, and then from the origin point branched into what we developed as hominids. It's a different branch. So not from monkeys, but we have a shared ancestry.
You're right.
Monkeys.
So we
were never monkeys. We were never monkeys.
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, that we'll have to define the monkey. I can tell you a couple of guys.
No, it's not about defining the monkey. It's about understanding the evolutionary process. It's not.
Right.
Humans did not come from monkeys. That's all. That's all I'm inputting on. That's it.
Well, if you want to go to the scientific terms, I'm fine with that. I just call that.
Well, when you brought up the rib and the XY and the XX chromosome, you're trying to say that the science and biological evolution can go along with creationism. I think you're grandly mistaken.
Right. To a large extent, it can in this case, in this specific case, for example. Right?
What?
Yeah.
What?
Keep circling.
Don't forget, Jason. I'll keep on doing that. Don't worry about that. But hold on. Religion is very much metaphorical, right? You shouldn't take it literal. That's what I've learned so far. It's.
When I did, and then I thought, well, all is a lie. It's not even true.
Right. I mean,
When
that's my
Jesus said
personal
that, when
thought.
Jesus said that, right, or supposedly, allegedly, right, did he mean it the way you're saying it? As much as like I do appreciate your metaphorical way of looking at it, like there are people like Dr. Z and others who like give so much science to like scripture, but is that how the holy man or the prophet or God in the case of Christianity was trying to like relay out his thoughts? Like how sure are you with what you're saying, Siko?
I mean, Nergis, I'm as sure as you are, I think, in this case. But I don't think. Okay, if you're talking about Jesus Christ, right?
You're explaining in your own opinion now, right? Because you say, I think, I thought, I believe. So it's you, huh? Not somebody else, huh?
Absolutely.
Okay. I thought you meant science earlier, but then you talk about other people. But it's you, huh? How you see it?
Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on.
Hold your horses.
Yeah. So let me just rethink in my head what Nugget said. Nugget, do you want to repeat that? Maybe in a short way.
I was saying, how do you know the person who relayed out these thoughts, right? Like women who come from the ribs of men, whatever. That's the story of creation, right? And the way you're looking at it, yeah. How do you know this was like the original view of the person talking about it?
No, it's not, right? So, I mean, it's not. It's my interpretation, first of all, based on my own, study of comparative study of religions. I would say that I'm still doing. I'm not far with it, I would say. But what I see is the same object is defined in a different way in every religion. The way it's defined. So it's the perspective that when you're looking at the same object, you create a new subject out of it. But you're looking at the same thing. That's how I look at it. And there are similarities, right? So I mean, you know more about Islam, right? Islam also says Adam and Eve, the first human beings. But religion specifically, if I talk about Sikhism, it is very much metaphorical. It's storytelling. It's storytelling to people who live in reality, and their world is quite small. It used to be small, now it's becoming bigger, right? And within that constrained world, what can they perceive and what they can understand? It's talking their language, basically. It's trying to tell them about something which is beyond their apprehension, but giving examples from within their reality. That's how I see it happening, at least.
Yeah, but why? For what purpose? Because if he didn't tell anything, everybody would just do their thing without any upbringing in a certain religion or into a certain religion or belief.
Right.
So if those storytelling stories were not there, then we would not have crazy stories in all those Bibles, talking about the same thing but explaining it in a different way. Just the way, just how you see it, or will spring up. That's what you say. And I think that too. But all about the same thing. Why so many different stories? Because people are storytellers, like you said. So they make things up. They make it new that people understand. But they tell 10 different stories. And now we're confused. Now we don't believe in anything.
That's a very pessimistic view.